Hey, Jeff here, your YouTube reviewer of New England brews, and welcome back to NEBR, New England Beer Reviews. This one comes from the Redhook Brewery, which is originally out of Washington State, but they also have a brewery in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And this particular one was brewed at the Portsmouth, New Hampshire Brewery. This is their out-of-your-gourd pumpkin porter. Comes in with an ABV of 5.8% ABV. This was first introduced to the New England beer community in 2012, but in 2013 this beer was introduced nationally. So now it's available pretty much all over the country. It is a beer that is a porter, a pumpkin ale, and it even has maple syrup in it. In fact, that's what it says here on, there's a little very short description here on the label that reads, a dark ale brewed with pumpkin spices and maple syrup. So good old New England, perhaps New Hampshire maple syrup going into a pumpkin brew. That sounds like a very interesting beer to me. So I'm looking forward to trying this. It was available in New England last year, but I didn't try it for some reason. So let me try it this year and during its sophomore year and check it out. Giving it a pour. The pumpkin brews are in full swing now. We're in September of 2013, and you're seeing the pumpkin ales and pumpkin brews from just about every brewery everywhere right now. So it happens at this time of year, of course. Okay, well, I can get pumpkin way over here. But first, let's take a look at the way it looks. And as promised, it is a dark color. It's kind of a very chestnut brown color with sort of reddish, ruby red hues around the edges, around the bottom, just around the edges of the glass. But for the most part, otherwise, it's chestnut brown, and it's got, a little kind of a brown off beige sort of head that seems to be leaving just a little bit of lacing that doesn't cling terribly long, but it's there, and, sort of sitting there for a bit. Time to check out the aroma. Yes, pumpkins. Of course, I mean, what would a pumpkin brew be without pumpkins? But this is a pumpkin porter, and you're picking up some other interesting characteristics, at least I am. I'm getting kind of a roasted spiciness. I am getting just a hint of that maple syrup. It's actually much further in the background than I might have expected. But I am getting just a hint of it because it does add that sort of unique maple syrup sweetness to the nose. A little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon. I mean, it really has a very pleasant, very likable, very decent aroma. Let's check out the taste. The body is a bit lighter than I might have expected. I'd say light to medium. It's really actually kind of thin. For a porter, I thought it might be a little thicker than what I'm getting. But taste-wise, well, I'm noticing the pumpkin more so on the nose than I am in the flavor. The pumpkin taste seems to kind of creep up in the background, doesn't really come forward like a lot of pumpkin ales do. There is a low to moderate bitterness at the end. As I said, I was getting a bit of this coffee and spice on the nose, but not really getting quite as much of that in the flavor. But it's definitely not your typical porter. I mean, the pumpkin is really what's kind of the highlight of all of this. I mean, even the pumpkin tends to be a little more firm on the nose and less so in the taste, but overall the pumpkin is still the lead ingredient, the lead aroma, the lead taste that's coming out of this beer, followed by a kind of a nice maltiness as well on the taste. The bitterness is probably low to moderate, more on the lower side, lingers for a little bit, slightly dry, and and it's still actually there after that last sip, so maybe it's got a bit of a more lingering finish than I first imagined. Pretty easy to drink, mainly I think because it's lightweight in body, and lighter bodied beers for me go down pretty quickly. You know, not necessarily depends on the, doesn't matter so much about the flavor, but the light body just makes it a lot easier to kind of drink it down. But again, you know, the aroma is much more significant than the taste. And I know really the way it's supposed to be is that really taste is, you know, biologically speaking, tends to reflect the aroma you're getting. You know, I mean, so they really kind of go hand in hand, obviously, in our five senses. But I get more on the nose than I do in the taste as far as vibrant pumpkin flavor. Now, after a few sips, I've had, what, 6 or 7 sips or so, I am starting to get that slight coffee thing. So that's kind of coming up from nowhere right now. It was, well, not nowhere. I noticed it on the nose at first. But, you know, it took about, whatever, 6 or 7 sips to finally notice a bit of this coffee in the taste as well. So, pumpkin and coffee. So I guess it's one of those beers that starts out one way, sort of evolves as it goes along, without really totally losing the pumpkin character that you've come to expect from pumpkin style ales and beers. In this case, a pumpkin porter, which I think is a very interesting combination, quite frankly. I mean, they're not the only one that does that, but I just like the whole idea of the you know, of the darker coffee and chocolatey sort of porter characteristics mixing in with the pumpkin flavors. But again, the pumpkin tends to be a little more so, and all the porter characteristics seem to be playing sort of shortstop. You know, they're kind of in a secondary sort of position, I'd say. Not front and center, but it is going down pretty quickly. So let me try to take a final swig and see how she goes. All done. I mean, that beer went down really, really quick. It was very easy to drink, decent flavor, and as I mentioned a moment ago, the coffee seemed to, it wasn't there for the first couple of sips, but it seemed to kind of come in a little more, the porter characteristics tended to come in a little more so toward the end. They never really took over the pumpkin and spice characteristics of a pumpkin ale, but they did start, you know, kind of pushing their way through toward the end of that beer. So I don't mind it. I thought it was a pretty good beer. You know, if I had it again, I wouldn't. I'd take it again very easily. I thought it was a very unique, very interesting beer, quite likable. So that's, you know, it's not that bad at all. So that's it for today. This is the Redhook Out of Your Gourd Pumpkin Porter from the Portsmouth, New Hampshire Brewery. Thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you again next time.